Kaieteur Radio, keeping you informed.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
Good evening and welcome to this evening's newscast right here on Kaieteur Radio. I am Kevin Smith. Before we get to the news in detail, let's get to today's front page comment of the Kaieteur News. Jagdio's silence. Three things are obvious when we think of promises given by Guyana's Vice President, Bharat Jagdeo. These three things do not speak well of him either as a leader or as a citizen vowing to deliver on promises made. Now, when Mr. Jagdeo was president, he stated that if he personally had to lead the charge to restart the Skeldon sugar factory, then he would. When reminded later of that commitment, Mr. Jagdeo said he couldn't recall. And now that the PPP is back, the Skeldon sugar factory is being readied to resume operations. As leader of the opposition, Mr. Jagdeo said he supported an independent international investigation into the award of the contracts for the Kanji and Kaieteur blocks. He swore that those found guilty of wrongdoing would be jailed. He was all for that then, but today, when Mr. Jagdeo is reminded of where he once stood so loudly and firmly, he is strangely silent. The three lessons Guyanese should learn from these are: firstly, when leaders give their sacred word, they sometimes develop convenient and selective amnesia. Mr. Jagdeo did that before with Skeldon. Secondly, when they determine that there should be honoring of promises, they move with haste. Again, Skeldon stands as evidence of this. Thirdly, when leaders swear to do something, only to discover that it can be politically embarrassing, they pretend or feign memory loss and do absolutely nothing. This is what Mr. Jagdeo has done with the Kanji and Kaieteur oil blocks. He is silent. He is distant from his prior promise. He feigns ignorance because of the many illegalities which were committed. We remind the Vice President, honorable men, honor their word. Your word is your bond. It must not be broken ever. Now for the news in detail. Even though the PPPC has given a commitment to modernize the legal framework for the oil industry, the IDB has pointed to some troubling areas of disharmony in the local laws, which underscore the need for the government to act swiftly. The IDB explained that the areas of legal conflict exist between the EPA Act and the regulations of the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act. The bank noted that there is a significant conflict when one turns to the environmental standards set out by the petroleum laws for the issuance of petroleum prospecting and production licenses. Taking this into account, the bank said it is crucial that Guyana addresses as soon as possible the disharmony between those standards under the EPA Act and those under the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act, as it believes that they are potentially disastrous for Guyana, particularly, but not only, if an oil spill were to occur. And moving on, the circumstances surrounding the Kaieteur Oil Block Award made by former President Donald Ramotar and the subsequent farm-ins have demonstrated several red flags that warrant a thorough investigation. The Kaieteur block is currently estimated to hold 2.1 billion oil equivalent barrels. It was awarded April 28, 2015, just 2 weeks before the 2015 general and regional elections by Ramotar on the advice of former Minister of Natural Resources, Robert Prasad. Two companies received the block with 50-50 stakes: Ratio Energy Limited, now Kaieteur Energy Limited, and Ratio Guyana Limited. Ratio Energy's name was changed on August 3, 2017, after it received the Kaieteur block. Its two directors are Canadian, Michael Kaywood, and Guyanese, Ryan Pereira, who have experience in mining. Notably, Global Witness, a international anti-corruption watchdog, reported that Pereira is a director in Catalea, represented Ratio Energy in 2015, when it received its stake in the block. This means Pereira was involved in both companies, which received rights to the Kaieteur block at the time of receipt. Moving on, it will cost the PPPC administration an estimated $34 million each month to purchase power from the Giftland Mall in order to compensate for the shortfall of electricity badly needed. Giftland's owner, Roy Bipat, explained that the huge part of the sum will be expended monthly on fuel. Bipat said that the power itself would cost around $9.9 million per month, while fuel cost is estimated to be $29.5 million. In other news, a motorcyclist was this morning killed in an accident. The accident, which involved a motorcycle and a motor car, occurred at the intersection of Sheriff and Dadawana Street in Camperville, Georgetown. The victim has been identified as Dion Martin Muniz, age 68, of East La Penitence, Georgetown. According to a police report, at around 5:15, a 43-year-old man was proceeding north along the western lane of Sheriff Street, while the deceased was proceeding south along the eastern lane on the Sheriff Street on a motorcycle. It is reported that as both vehicles approached Dadawana Street, the driver of the motorcar turned east and collided with the motorcycle. As a result of the collision, the deceased was flung into the eastern gutter on Sheriff Street. Let's tell you now that following the passage of the emergency $330 billion budget, the government is now in a rush to expend the remainder of funds and projects before the end of this fiscal year. With this, NPTAB on Tuesday last opened over 725 bids for 65 major governmental projects at their Ministry of Finance office on Main and Urquhart Street, Georgetown. Get the full details of these bids in tomorrow's Kaieteur News. In other news, now that Guyana is more than 9 months into facilitating lights of its light sweet crude, of its light sweet crude being produced in the Liza Phase 1 field, industry experts are of the firm view that the nation's leaders ought to have in place effective hydrocarbon accounting systems. Specifically holding this view is petroleum consultant Randall Mohammed. Mohammed explained that hydrocarbon accounting systems are used by petroleum nations across the world to ensure that they are able to track gas and oil ownership from the point of production to the point of sale. If these systems are not effective, Mohammed said that there can be errors and delays in hydrocarbon accounting, which can result in a significant financial loss for the state. Taking this into consideration, Mohammed said it is essential that the Guyanese authorities make every effort to ensure that not only the hydrocarbon computer systems that execute such accounting rules are correctly programmed, but that measurements are accurate and that reporting is timely. And moving on, 2 men accused of gunning down a man in front of his 5-year-old daughter and wife on the East Bank public road at Eccles in the middle of the busy traffic early last year have walked. Principal Magistrate Shertle Isaacs Marcus on Friday discharged the capital offence of murder against 31-year-old Devon Allen and 29-year-old Roderick Thomas. They were on remand for the murder of taxi driver Kelvin Walters, who was executed on January 22, 2019. When the matter was called for ruling in the Georgetown Magistrates Courts, Magistrate Marcus upheld a no-case submission that was presented to the court by the accused attorneys, stating that there is not sufficient evidence against their clients. Let's tell you now that Region 1, or Buri-Mawini, has once again become a COVID-19 hotspot, causing the Ministry of Health to ramp up their measures to tackle and manage its spread. A senior official of the ministry said that over the past month, an alarming surge in COVID-19 cases were observed in the region, which was followed with the health ministry sending in personnel to conduct testing and isolation. Also in their plan to properly detect and manage the virus will be the use of antigen tests. The Health Minister, Dr. Frank Anthony, recently announced that the government has ordered 20,000 antigen tests. And that brings us to the end of this evening's newscast. I am Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening. Coming up next is the National Outlook with GHK Lal.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today.
Hi guys, this is Susan Sachs and you're listening to Kaieteur